$1 billion. I mean, just wrap your head around that number for a second. Imagine trying to pull off a flawless cyber heist for exactly that amount, completely bypassing the world's most secure financial systems, and doing it all without ever setting foot inside a physical bank vault. It literally sounds like the plot of the next big Hollywood blockbuster. But this is entirely real. And the level of planning we're talking about here is absolutely mind-blowing. Welcome to today's Explainer. We are diving deep into the dramatic, true story of the Bangladesh bank heist. And hey, it's really worth keeping in mind as we go through this. The systems these hackers targeted, they are the exact same global networks that handle our personal economy every single day. But honestly, what's truly fascinating about this story isn't just the sheer massive scale of this multinational robbery. It's how this near-perfect, highly sophisticated operation was completely unraveled by, wait for it, a primary school-level typo. Seriously. It is a total masterclass in both digital espionage and human error. All right, let's start with part one, the silent infiltration. So every great heist needs a way in, right? But in January 2015, these hackers didn't use explosives or drill through concrete walls. Instead, they just sent a simple phishing email to the Bangladesh National Bank. It had a fake job applicant CV hidden inside a zip file. 3 employees saw it, one of them downloaded it, and boom, that single click cracked open the bank's entire network. Because, well, this wasn't just your standard everyday computer virus that corrupts some files. The malware they unleashed had 3 very specific, stealthy jobs. First, it popped open a back door into the private network. Second, it secured an encrypted channel, basically making sure that any data leaving the bank was completely undetectable. And third, which is definitely the most dangerous part, it logged all activity. It just sat there and silently spied on the bank's daily operations for an entire year. They watched who logged in, how the money moved, even what computers were left on over the weekend. They learned the whole shebang without anyone ever noticing a thing. Moving on to part 2, hacking the SWIFT system. During that year of silent surveillance, the hackers realized a really crucial detail. The bank's massive dollar reserves, they weren't actually sitting physically in a vault in Bangladesh. They were held over in the United States, specifically at the New York Federal Reserve. So to get their hands on that money, they needed to compromise the global money transfer pipeline itself. Enter SWIFT. If you're not familiar, think of SWIFT as a highly secure international bank transfer system. It's essentially acting like a WhatsApp for banks. It's this dedicated, super encrypted messenger network that national banks use to authorize global payments. We're talking about moving billions of dollars across borders every single day. The hackers knew absolutely for sure that to steal $1 billion from the New York Fed, they had to control these exact SWIFT communications. But here's the thing. The SWIFT system itself is heavily fortified, like incredibly secure. So the hackers didn't attack the SWIFT software directly. Instead, they brilliantly exploited human behavior. They located the specific terminal computer inside the bank that was used for SWIFT. Then, they monitored employee logins for months. They perfectly copied the exact formatting of standard, everyday transfers, and they learned to flawlessly replicate the routine behaviors of the bank staff. By studying past transactions, they figured out how to make the biggest heist in history look just like, a regular Tuesday transfer. They were preparing to break their billion-dollar target into smaller, less suspicious chunks to avoid setting off any sudden alarms.
Which brings us to part 3, the masterstroke of timing.
Now, by May 2015, they had already quietly set up fake accounts in the Philippines and Sri Lanka, just waiting to catch the money. But their true genius really kicked in around February 2016. They didn't just hack computers, they literally weaponized the global calendar. It was basically the blueprint of a perfect crime. On Thursday night, February 4th, the hackers struck. In Bangladesh, the weekend begins on Friday, which meant the bank closed and nobody was watching the screens. But over New York, it was Friday morning, a completely regular workday. The New York Fed was wide open, happily processing transfers as usual. And their getaway destination? The Philippines. There, the upcoming Monday was Chinese New Year. It's a massive national holiday where all the banks are closed. By perfectly aligning these 3 time zones and holidays, the hackers created this flawless 4-day window of total silence across 3 different countries. I mean, wow.
All right, part 4, the billion-dollar typo.
So, with the trap perfectly set, we reach the absolute climax of our explainer. On that Thursday night, with the Bangladesh bank totally empty, the hackers fired off 36 separate transfer requests to the New York Fed.
totaling $951 million. They were mere hours away from pulling off the perfect crime. Until, well, one single transfer ruined the whole thing. They were routing $20 million to a supposed charity in Sri Lanka called the Shalika Foundation. But if you look closely at the spelling here, the hackers typed Shalika Foundation. Actually, scratch that. It's not even a complex typo. They just dropped a single O. The New York Fed processed it, but a routing bank in Germany caught the typo. And that one missing letter, it triggered a massive red flag.
That tiny little typo caused absolute panic. The German bank immediately alerted the New York Fed, asking for some clarification on this highly suspicious foundation. Realizing they might be under a coordinated attack, the New York Fed halted all the remaining transfers immediately. They desperately started trying to call Bangladesh Bank to verify the transactions. But remember that clever time zone trick we talked about? Yeah, it was the weekend in Bangladesh. The bank was completely closed, and nobody was there to pick up the phone. And that leads us to our final section, Part 5. Where is the money? Now, you might be wondering, surely someone at the Bangladesh bank checks the incoming logs on a weekend, right? And yes, there was a duty officer on site. But the hackers anticipated this exact moment of discovery. They actually executed a chilling physical hack to keep the Bangladesh bank completely blind. You see, the bank had this dedicated HP LaserJet printer sitting in the corner, and its only job was to automatically print every single SWIFT transaction 24/7. To make sure the duty officer saw absolutely nothing on Friday, the hackers infected that specific printer. It hummed along, acting perfectly normal, but it was spitting out blank pages. The duty officer just assumed it was a standard, annoying weekend hardware glitch and figured he'd leave it to be checked out on Saturday morning. By Saturday morning, when the staff finally realized what was actually happening, it was a total race against time. The hackers had requested $951 million. And incredibly, that single spelling mistake saved over $850 million by freezing those remaining transactions in New York. However, $81 million had already successfully slipped through the cracks. It was already making its way to those fake accounts waiting in the Philippines. The getaway itself was just a masterclass in delay. Think about it. Thursday, the transfers are sent. The entire weekend, the Bangladesh bank is completely blinded by the blank printer and their locked systems. By Monday, Bangladesh finally manages to fire off a desperate stop payment message to the bank in the Philippines. But remember the calendar hack? It's Chinese New Year. The Philippine bank is closed. They literally can't even read the message. By Tuesday morning, when the bank finally opens and the systems come back online, it's already way too late. So, where exactly did that $81 million go? Well, right as the doors opened on Tuesday, the cash was authorized for withdrawal by an RCBC bank manager in Manila, completely ignoring the stop payment warnings that were finally arriving. From there, the money just vanished. It was dumped into massive Manila casinos, converted into chips to effectively launder it clean, and then sent onward to Hong Kong. The bank manager involved was eventually sentenced to 7 years in prison across multiple money laundering charges. But the money itself, it's completely gone. Which brings us to the end of our explainer, and honestly, it leaves us with a massive, lingering question. Almost 10 years later, who were the masterminds that actually walked away with $81 million? Despite huge global investigations, we still don't know the true identities of the brilliant ghosts who pulled off this historic heist. They orchestrated a nearly flawless, highly calculated digital robbery across 3 continents in 4 days, only to be tripped up by the letter O. It really makes you wonder about the hidden vulnerabilities in the systems we trust with our money every single day. So, what are your main takeaways from this incredible digital footprint? Thank you so much for joining us for this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.